Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Dotson. I'm the founder of Highland Park Poetry and your host for Poetry Today. I'm thrilled to have James Lowell Hall as our guest today. He's a practicing physician in Chicago. He's married with 2 children and has a quirky German shepherd named Molly or Molly? Okay.
Molly.
All right. He is the author of 3 books, Prairie Roots, pictured here, right here. And this book is earned the Illinois State Poetry Society's 2024 Book of the Year Award. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. He's also published Goodnight, Sweetheart, Goodnight, The Love Story of Ray Harrison Lillibridge and Marguerite Janicki Lillibridge. And the third book is Lillibridge Houses. James also edits the poetry column Poetic Ponderings in Wilmette Living magazine. And every Christmas season, he opens the Lillibridge family home in Delavan, Illinois for a celebration of family. So, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Yeah, it's funny, we've corresponded by email a lot, but we haven't had much
one-on-one time.
much one-on-one time. So this is a good opportunity for me to learn more about you as well. Again, congratulations on the book. Tell me a little bit about the journey about this book.
Well, it started, my interest in this topic is a family topic. My grandparents, around the turn of the century, 1906 or so, started courting, and my grandfather would drive my grandmother, who taught in a one-room schoolhouse, 10 miles to she'd come back to Delavan, this town, on the weekends, and he would drive her back to the farmhouse she was lodging at for her school. So they had the drive, and they would talk at that, and then in between, while she was 10 miles away, they corresponded with letters.
Oh, wow.
And so I have the set of these letters, and that led to that one book, Goodnight, Sweetheart, Goodnight, which is sort of an epistolary collection of the letters and reminiscence and things. And then it seemed to me that it would fit more with poetry than prose.
Okay.
We still have the house that my grandfather built for my grandmother in 1915. He was a contractor in the area. The house is still there. They had 7 children. They all spread across the country, and their children and children's children. But everybody seems to come back to the house on the holiday season, every year.
Wow.
So,
Well, with that much growth in the family, where do you all sleep? I'm sure the house isn't that big.
well, I guess there are a few people still living in the area,
Oh, okay.
and not too far away. There's some
Okay.
hotels and things.
All right. Okay, well, that's
But
great.
we
Yeah.
average 30, 40 people that come every, for this party every year.
That's great.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have family members all on speaking terms for that big a group that would be able to do that.
What happens is, after a period of time, it becomes part of everybody gets used to it. The kids and their kids start liking the family area of it, and so once it's sort of in their habit that they're going to come, it's fun. And over that time, for me it's been 50 some years, but over the time everybody tells family stories, and they become sort of oral history and folklore, and those are the stories that the poem's about.
Great. Well, I think this would be a great opportunity for you to share some of that.
Okay, thanks. So let's see. The first one is The Props Assist the House, Emily Dickinson. Emily Dickinson had a poem of the same name that sort of gave me the title, but the poem she did, of course, is masterful and a little different than mine, but that's where the title came. Ray will raise a house to bind his coming marriage, a foundation to build a family, lacking and longed for since his youth. To affirm its pattern on the earth, he marks by snapped chalk cord between stakes, umbilical cut beneath the prairie's frost line, support pillars forged of poured cement. Ray lays down something of himself into this house, and the earth and wood and stone give force of their own back into Ray. Life of his household, the center, begins. Brick by brick, the foundation rises. Flat, flush sills support thick struts spanning walls. Ray positions floor joists across these beams, bracing each in twined trunks a tree of life. Marguerite teaches in a one-room school 2 miles out of town, passing daily. She sees skeleton frame and fireplace climb, her spirits leavening. Lumber is stretched straight prior to use, measured twice, cut once. The frame will hold its weight, bend but not break, expand in heat, shrink in cold, keep together as one. Ray feels the wood's grain, gauging age and life. He does not let this spark die, letting live wood guide his hands and tools, channeling its spirit into the house as he builds. Marguerite sees her home, boughs thicken, canopy roof rise towards heaven. Ray, still yearning, climbs scaffolding, nailing a cottonwood branch on the peak. They toast with sweet cider, crisp tang of ripe apples fresh off the tree. Hand in hand, they climb the stairs, cross the porch to the front door.
Oh, wow, that's lovely. And it does paint such a vivid picture. It was funny, I all of a sudden, I haven't thought about it, but I remember my dad building something, and he had that device where you pull the chalk line out, and then you snap it, and it leaves that impression, or...
Yeah.
And so I was like, I know what that is.
You get the straight line, yeah.
Okay, well, no. And I just, of course, it made me think, wow, how many kids today will know what that means?
That's a good question.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Well, I guess I also wanted to ask you, you mentioned, I mean, in your bio, you're a physician. How did you come into poetry?
Well, I don't know. I always enjoyed poetry and wrote some in high school and some since then, but you put a lot of time and effort into being a physician and then come back to it later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. Let's see. Did you have another poem that you wanted to read?
Sure. Okay. This one is Hogging Catfish. Hogging catfish. Under fallen trees the catfish stay, dreaming in water muddy. Till I tickle their belly, wake up, Hogg Wallace wants to play. William Hogg Wallace. You boys are telling a whale of a tale. Came out lame, even if you don't believe it. I met Wallace once years ago. He was a man just like you and me, even if he is as famous as Paul Bunyan. His mind reckoned like a fish, knew what the fish was thinking before the fish did. And one day, he taught me more than you'll ever learn in a lifetime on the Mackinac. Look, catfish have their own home in sunken holes. You need to go down into their haunt and tickle them just right. When they feel comfortable with you being there, sneak your left hand up into their mouth like to kiss them. They'll wake up in a tizzy realizing you ain't their mama catfish, sweating bullets to get out of that hole they're in. Expect that fish to reflex jerk forward and chomp on your hand. This gives you a fighting chance. Noodle your right hand into their gills. Hold on tight while you grunt it out of the water. This can be a real dog fight. Old River Cat wants to go down deep. Make you bottom feed. Take a big gulp of air and hoist them out on the bank. Out of water, you'll win. But if you follow them down to the bottom of the barrel, the catfish wins. You may never resurface. I got mighty cocky after hogging a few river cat over the years. Forgot what my pappy told me about the danger underwater. Sometimes a beaver or a gator can be in that catfish hole. Sometimes a loggerhead cooter is lurking below. One day I reached down to tickle a catfish. Snap, snap, crunch. A big old snapper bit on my hand. Its beak sharp. has metal snips. Got me a 4-fingered left hand. Now I test catfish holes with a hickory stick before I tickle that cat. Old snapper turtle don't like to let go after he bites on a stick. Let's drive to the Mac this weekend, Ray. Teach us how to hog catfish. Must be hard working carpentry minus a finger. Not at all, I replied, straightening my bent finger. Like I said, boys, when you tell a whopper, say it like you believe it.
So do you have a personal experience with this, or?
I don't have much success hogging catfish. The Hog Wallace, who I made up the quote, but he is sort of a local legend they talk about, or used to talk about in the papers, from 50 to 60 years ago. He might be Wallace Saunders, who wrote the Ballad of Casey Casey Jones,
right? Okay.
Who was like an engine wipe, and that train that Casey was on came through this area. But they talk about him as hogging the catfish, and then almost as if the name of how you do it. Other places call it noodling, where you grab the thing with your hands without a hook or a. I haven't really had any success myself, but I have canoed through there several times, and there are other poems about that in the collection.
Nice. Wow, that's great. So, Prairie Roots, is it all focused in Delavan?
Yes.
Okay.
It's pretty much all in Delavan, but it's over the course of multiple generations.
Okay.
So,
all right.
The town is also sort of a theme in this. It started out as sort of a booming town, small town America. The whole idea of this Americana has sort of changed over time. The Grant Wood type of feel. It was the children and the children's children all can't wait to move out of town.
Right. Yeah.
The farmland has gone up in price, so now you have, very rich on paper people living in the farmland, but there isn't that much business in the town
Right.
anymore. So the collection sort of goes through this transition of how the town changed also. But I can't think of one of the poems that isn't the family, at least, circulated in this town.
And I beg geographic ignorance. Where is Delavan? If you're looking at a map.
Delavan's about 170 miles south of here. You go south down to Bloomington and go west a little ways. It's west of Bloomington, a little south of Peoria.
Okay.
And
all right.
there is this Mackinac River that rides pretty close to it.
Okay. But not any kind of, where does the river extend? Does it just go to the Mississippi and?
Yeah, the river starts sort of in eastern Illinois and eventually goes into the Illinois River.
Okay.
And the Illinois goes into the Mississippi.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not originally from Illinois, so I've lived here for a long time now, but obviously my upbringing was not from here, so I don't know a lot of the lore or where things are outside of the Chicago metropolitan area. So.
Well, it's I don't know how many people do know Central Illinois, but.
Okay. All right. Let's see. You were many of your poems describe family life in the early 20th century. How did you capture this time, since it occurred before you were born?
Well, it goes back to these family gatherings. I was an only child. I remember my mom asking me when I was 3 or 4 years old, what do I want for the holidays? And I said people and books. And so I always liked to go down and with the family, because I was an only child and it was a big family. And everybody told stories, and they became sort of mythic in a way.
Okay.
How these stories change. But that's my mother also kept some journals, and she did write a little bit, some of these character studies, because there's a lot of interesting characters in this town. And like I mentioned, I have this set of letters from a year or two
Okay, right.
of my grandparents when they were courting, talking to each other.
So I guess they introduced some characters as well. That you were,
Sure,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. What are some of the characters that you created,
Well, let me find one for you.
or that you elaborated in poetic form?
So, yeah, like most towns, Delavan does have all these characters. You know, there's the astrophobic Mrs. Hickey, Hog Willis that we talked about, the legendary guy who caught catfish with his hands, kleptomaniac Mrs. Stewart, Ched Inskep, who's a tobacco-chewing chief of police, Ike Dekoff, who brought ice before they had electricity. Everybody had an ice box, and he'd drop off the ice. And then there was Lena Slack. Lena Slack talked like a parrot, moved like a vulture, or moved like a jaguar, acted like a vulture. All the kids hated her. She reciprocated. When something went wrong in her home, she blamed us Lillibridge kids. Halloween, a posse of high school boys turned over nearly every privy in town, flipped Lena Slack's outhouse, threw ripe tomatoes on her freshly painted front porch. Lunch hour, Daniel Cheever, Delavan High School principal, made the entire class go around restoring privies right side up and scrub each porch clean. Not good enough. Lena's evil vulture eyes willed them all stone dead.
Oh my gosh.
So
All
she
right.
was a character.
Yes. Okay. And I, not growing up in an area that had privies, I didn't think I didn't know that Halloween tradition. That's a pretty terrible, terrible tradition.
Well, they shoot off fireworks or something, but yeah, it was.
Oh my goodness. And the kleptomaniac?
Oh, we have another poem about her, but she lived across the street. I can try to find that one. Sorry. Okay. Mrs. Stewart lived directly across the street in a white frame house. 10 years older than Dad, Mrs. Stewart was a kleptomaniac. Grocery owners were on the lookout when she entered their stores. Often she would have a banana or an apple or even a jar of marmalade hidden in her apron dress. None of our family ever visited the Stewarts, but she frequently came over, entering our living room and staying until the spirit moved her to go home. Mother told me she often took things. There was a bad habit she had, and I should keep both eyes on her all the time. Mother could not waste her whole day visiting, but she was kind to Mrs. Stewart. Whenever Mother left the room to do washing, ironing, or fix dinner, she would say to me, "Honey, you have a good visit with Mrs. Stewart."
Oh boy. Did you actually ever catch her in the act of?
No. She was a generation before me.
Oh, okay.
so,
All right. Okay.
yeah.
I didn't understand. Now, on your website, there's a quote from the recently former Illinois Poet Laureate Angela Jackson about a poem that you wrote and where she praised it. That's pretty.
was-
How did that happen?
Well, for my column in Wilmette Living, I interviewed her, and she was very gracious. And when I first asked her, I guess she had looked up the poem, and
Oh,
so
okay.
she maybe she's just being nice, but she
Okay.
said she really liked it. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay. All right. That was the To a Father Dying Young.
To a Father Dying Young. Let me find that. Yeah, this To a Father Dying Young, inspired by A.E. Houseman. I dreamt of my father last night. We stand waiting for a table in a bustling Italian restaurant. aromas of oregano, sage, Chianti, mixed with contagious laughter. The water captain directs servers, keeps bread baskets filled, and tops off wine. I try to get the maitre d's' ear, find out how long until our large party can be seated. I look across the room, where Dad is talking with someone I don't know. The room is loud, I cannot hear. Stopping his conversation, he smiles. Sage green eyes penetrate mine, connect in a familiar quiet ease. A checkered table for two opens. I think I should grab Dad and take it. The two of us can sit and reminisce, but we're part of a group too large to seat. There will be time to catch up later. The dream ends before we get a table. I wake, pillow damp, spent, longing. So many questions never answered. Washing sleep from my eyes, in the mirror, Dad's face looks back at me.
I like that too. I mean, I'm not the poet of Illinois, but I like that as well.
A.E. Housman wrote a poem to an athlete dying young, and it sort of talks about an athlete that they're carrying home after winning a race, and then later they carry him home because he dies young.
Okay.
And I actually read that poem at my father's funeral when I was 19 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So it's been many years since he passed away, and I wrote the poem after a dream I had of him, despite the years. Yeah.
That's amazing. I wonder what it means. Paging Dr. Freud, right? You know, I don't know. But
there must be something there, but
that you're prevented from, whether it's the passage of years, like the metaphor for the crowded restaurant or whatever. But
yeah, prevented forever actually talking. Yeah.
But good work. Good work. You have some other poems that you wanted to
Sure.
share?
Let's see. Yeah, part of this oral history of gathering at the home was talking about how the family met. So this one is Chicken Every Sunday. First, we children went to Sunday school, then church, then home for play clothes. The Sunday funnies and our tasks for the big dinner of the week. Oven-baked chicken, sides of mashed potatoes and giblet gravy, corn and lima bean succotash, biscuits, Jell-O, wilted lettuce salad. At dinner, the youngest got a drumstick, mother a wing, Dad had a breast. One Sunday, Alice looked out our breakfast window for our chickens, each one of them named by us kids. Rusty was a Rock Island Red, Specs a Plymouth Rock, and Blackie. Alice's chicken, Blackie, was missing. No child consumed chicken that day. We all ate together. The youngest child who could say a prayer gave grace. Had the child been bad or wished a special request, at the end of the prayer it would come. Lord, let me go to the circus, or forgive me for breaking Mom's flower vase. When Grandma Jenicky ate dinner with us, she would give her German grace. Come, dear Jesus, be our guest, and bless what you have shared with us. For dessert, homemade rhubarb pie or cherry pie from our orchard. Gathering around the table, always special. The needs of all remembered. No matter the afternoon activities, no one left the table until everyone was done. Most Sunday afternoons, Granddad came by to hear Paul Rader's sermons on the Atwater Kent wooden cabinet 8-tube radio. We'd see him coming up the walk with a can with fresh marshmallows, 2 for each kid, plus 1 extra for the first one to meet him at the door, and we'd run our Sunday race for a marshmallow.
So now, is this a story from your parents' childhood? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
much of this that I'm reading now, there's some later
Okay.
That talk about the current family parties and that, and so much of what I've read are my mother's time
Generation,
and her generation. Though, you know,
That's the sad thing about the child looking out the window and not seeing their chicken. That's that would be very, very hard.
But it's part of the the mythology of this. You know,
Sure. Right. So you've mentioned a couple of poets that you know, Emily Dickinson and A.E. Housman that you've referenced in your book. But are there particular poets that inspire you as that you wish to be like, or just admire?
There are a lot I admire. I'd like to be like a lot of, but I don't. Starting a little too late to be.
Okay.
Yeah. But I admire Angela Jackson. Some of the people I've interviewed for the column, Sean Waterbury, who's he's of the autism spectrum, and he writes beautiful poems, and I guess, you know, when I was a child growing up, I did like A.E. Housman and one of the, you know, the last poem in the book, Prairie Sunset, is inspired by N. Scott Momaday. Momaday is a Kiowa poet, or he passed away last year, but so he's a Native American who wrote a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel that both begins and ends with the quote, "There was a house made of dawn, it was made of pollen and rain, and the land was very old and everlasting." And that's a Navajo chant for healing the sick. And that sort of inspired this last poem, Prairie Sunset. West of town at sunset, fields stretch to the far horizon. The last glowing rays of the day shimmer on impossibly straight rows of corn. Tassels burst, haze of golden pollen floating, rising, waiting for the rain. As long as we keep the earth, it's true, she gives us what we need. The story goes like this. Plowing a field, the horse stopped, would not budge, and the boy Perry went to the front to walk him forward. The nag lunged, and the boy fell. Sharp sickle steel ran across his leg. Some power intervened, cutting edge catching on a clod of dirt. The plow popped up and over his leg, preserving life and limb. Surviving a century of progress, Perry is now buried in Prairie Rest Cemetery. His tombstone carved, green sod above, lie light, lie light. East of town, clusters of windmills tower on the prairie, dwarfing any quixotic passion to resist. Where Perry once plowed a field one row at a time, now satellite-guided tractors pull 36-row no-till planters, every field corn seed coated with pesticides and fertilizer. Precision farming, soil sampling, moisture sensing, yield mapping. The farmer morphs into a mechanic, fixing robot harvesters. Big data maximizes profit, shading out the love of dirt. AI algorithms prevail. Will they keep the earth to come? The sun in the heartland sets far away, unscreened by city lights. Through the night's vibrant stars, a milky sky river beacon rises like a ladder.
Oh, wow. Well, we're out of time, but we're so glad that James Lowell Hall is going to be our special guest on Saturday, June, is it the 12th, 13th? I'm blanking on which day it was. I didn't write it down. I don't know why I did that. But anyway, please check highlandparkpoetry.org and look at our calendar of events. He's our feature poet for June. There'll be an open mic after, but you'll be able to hear more of the poems from Prairie Roots, as well as purchase a copy if you like. So thank you so much for joining us, Jim.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for the opportunity.
And we look forward to seeing you again.
You bet. Thanks.
Take care.